It all began on a quiet Saturday morning. The sun was peeking through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the living room floor. I was still groggy from sleep when my mom called me downstairs. She had been acting strangely these past few days, almost as though she had a secret she couldn't wait to share. There was an excitement in her eyes, but it wasn't the kind I was used to. It was almost as if she was preparing for something big, something life-changing. I dragged myself out of bed, rubbing my eyes, and walked into the living room, still in my pajamas. My mom was sitting on the couch, looking at me with an expression that I couldn't quite read. For a moment, it felt like the room was holding its breath, and the clock ticking in the background seemed louder than ever. "Come here," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I need to talk to you." I shuffled over and sat down, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. My mind was filled with questions, but I didn't dare ask just yet. She took a deep breath before speaking again, almost as if she was gathering the courage to say something important. "I've been thinking about something for a long time," she began, her eyes never leaving mine. "It's time for you to understand what it means to be a daughter." I froze. The words didn't make sense. I had always been the boy in the family. I loved my mom, of course, but I had never thought about life from her perspective. What did she mean? Was she about to say something I wouldn't be able to handle? "I know you're confused," she continued, sensing my hesitation, "but I need you to trust me. I've planned this for a long time, and now it's time for you to experience it." Before I could respond, she reached down beside the couch and picked up a small bundle of clothes. My eyes widened as I realized what it was, an outfit I had never imagined wearing in my life. A dress, heels, accessories I'd never touched before. My mind raced. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me with a soft smile. "This is your new life, my dear." I shook my head, not believing what I was hearing. "I can't do this. I'm not a girl." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she set the clothes down in front of me and sat back in the chair, her gaze steady. "I know you're scared, but I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm asking you to experience something from a different perspective. You'll understand soon." I wanted to argue. I wanted to refuse. But there was something in her voice that made me hesitate. There was a quiet, unwavering confidence there, a certainty that I couldn't ignore. "Please, just try it on," she said, her voice softer now. For me, I didn't know what else to say. Reluctantly, I took the clothes and headed to the bathroom. I stood there for a moment, staring at the dress in my hands, unsure of what to do. But deep down, a part of me was curious. Could I really understand what she meant by this? I slowly undressed and slipped into the dress. As the soft fabric brushed against my skin, something inside me stirred. The sensation was unlike anything I had ever felt before. It wasn't just the dress. It was the realization that I was changing. The person I had always known myself to be was slipping away, replaced by something unfamiliar but strangely comforting. The dress fit me perfectly, hugging my body in ways I hadn't expected. The heels, though awkward at first, gave me a new kind of posture, something more graceful. My mom had already helped me with makeup, making sure I looked as much like a girl as possible. I couldn't even recognize myself in the mirror. When I finally stepped out of the bathroom, my mom's eyes lit up. She smiled at me with pride. "You look beautiful," she said, her voice filled with warmth. I stared back at her in shock. "This isn't me," I whispered. "This isn't who I am." But my mom didn't seem to hear me. She just nodded as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. "Yes, it is. This is who you are, too. It's just hidden beneath the surface." The next few hours were a blur. My mom patiently taught me how to walk in heels, how to hold myself with confidence, and how to embrace the grace that seemed to come so naturally to her. Every lesson felt like another step away from the person I had always known, and yet with each step, I found myself becoming more and more comfortable in my new role. But there was still a lingering doubt in my mind. Could I really live like this? Would I ever feel truly comfortable in these clothes, in this persona? When my mom told me it was time to go out, my heart skipped a beat. "We're going out?" I asked, feeling my anxiety rise. She smiled. "Yes, it's time for you to face the world as you are now." I hesitated, the fear creeping in. What will people think? But my mom just shook her head. "It doesn't matter. You're doing this for you, not for anyone else." Walking outside was a strange experience. I had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. The world seemed different through these eyes. I walked with my head down, my hands clutching the sides of my dress, unsure of what was coming next. But then something incredible happened. As we passed people on the street, I realized that they weren't staring at me with judgment. They were staring with curiosity, admiration even. Some of the older women smiled at me, while others gave me approving nods. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, not just as a boy, but as something else entirely. I looked up at my mom, who was walking beside me with a satisfied smile. "You're doing great," she said softly. I wanted to ask her 100 questions, to tell her I wasn't sure about this whole thing, but I couldn't bring myself to. There was something in her presence, in the way she held herself, that made me want to trust her. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I couldn't turn back now. That night, after we returned home, I received a message from my best friend, Adam. I hadn't told him about what had happened today, and I wasn't sure how to explain it. "Hey, you free tomorrow?" he texted. I stared at the message for a long time, my heart pounding. Would he even recognize me? Would he accept this version of me? I didn't know how to answer, but I had no choice. I had to tell him the truth. The next day, I nervously met up with him. The moment he saw me, his jaw dropped. "Whoa," he said, staring at me. "This is different." "Yeah," I said, biting my lip. "It's complicated." Adam just nodded slowly. "I don't know what to say, but you look amazing. I guess you're kind of pulling it off." I felt a small wave of relief wash over me. "You're not freaked out?" Adam smiled. "No. I mean, I never expected this, but I'm your friend. I'll support whatever you need." The next few days were filled with new challenges, new lessons, and new emotions I wasn't prepared for. I started to feel a strange pull toward this new identity, one that felt both foreign and familiar at the same time. But I was still unsure. Was this truly who I was? Or was it something my mom had created to fulfill her own desires? The night before I went out again, I got a message. It was a photo of me, dressed as my mom had planned, shared among my friends. The caption read, "Is this the real you? What will happen next? Will I embrace this new version of myself, or will I fight against the transformation my mom orchestrated?" Leave your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. This story is far from over, and I promise the next chapter will leave you speechless.